We recently covered some positive news regarding Title IX protections. Title IX has to do with school protections, and it's the one that says, you cannot discriminate on the basis of, race, religion, sex, and all that stuff in school environments. And we have been relying on judicial interpretations where courts have determined that gender identity and sexual orientation are considered types of sex discrimination, just based on, if it's fine for a man to be married to a woman, but it's not fine for a man to be married to a man, then that's basically sex discrimination. And similar with gender identity, if you wouldn't fire a man for wearing a suit, or I guess that's not a great example because women, it's more permissive for women to wear suits, but if you would hire a woman, cisgender woman who's wearing a dress, but you would fire a transgender woman for wearing a dress, then you have discriminated on against the trans woman on the basis of sex, right? Different, Title VII, Title IX, they apply to different parts of society. Title IX is the education one. Recently, Obama's basically changed the wording or the intention of the Title IX rules to basically explicitly say that discrimination against people for their transgender identity is covered under Title IX discrimination. Did I say Obama? I meant Biden. Although this has been a situation that's been under question since the Obama administration. It's been a while. Obama, listen. So this was good news. Instead of relying on court interpretations, then if it's just straight up, if it's part of the law that we know for sure that discrimination against trans people or gay people is sex discrimination or is explicitly protected, I don't know the exact wording of it, then that's better than court interpretations can change. That's part of why the whole Roe v. Wade and then Dobbs decision was so terrible, is that, they had 50 years to take this court ruling and turn it into a real law, and they didn't do that, which is why they were able to get a new court ruling that just reversed 50 years of abortion protections at the federal level. So working through the courts, speaking of the courts again, the Kansas Attorney General, hi, I live in Kansas, it sucks here, Kris Kobach, has decided to sue the Biden administration because of this expansion of protections for LGBTQ students. Announced May 14th, Kris Kobach is, suing over the rewrite of federal rules to protect LGBTQ students. Alaska, Utah, and Wyoming partnered with Kansas on the lawsuit, which, so it's 4 states following the U.S. Department of Education's release in April of new guidelines to prohibit discrimination at federally funded schools. These Title IX rules are supposed to go into effect on August 1st. They explicitly ban discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity. And under this revision, LGBTQ plus students who face discrimination will be entitled to a response from their school and can seek action from the federal government. So basically what happens in those instances is if the federal law is a certain way and then the states break that law, then usually what happens is the federal government sues them. So the federal government sues the states and says, oi, federal law supersedes state law. So if you're going to try to break the law, then we're going to sue you, and there will be punishment basically. On what possible grounds? Let's find out. So Kobach says that this change violates the First Amendment rights of teachers and school employees whose religious beliefs would prevent them from complying with the rule. So he continues, in quotes, saying, "It's insanity. Biden's Title IX rule is unconscionable. It's dangerous to girls and women, and it's against federal law." Babe, it is the federal law. That is the federal law. Kris Kobach is also pro-lead plumbing. Oh God, no, I hadn't heard about that. It's an 85-page lawsuit. Kobach focused his assertion that trans athletes shouldn't participate in women's sports. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals just determined that that is sex discrimination to bar trans girls from participating. In 2023, Kansas lawmakers passed a ban prohibiting trans student athletes from participating in girls and women's sports. The state law could conflict with new federal rules, although the federal revision doesn't explicitly address trans athletes. Kobach says, "I can certainly tell you that if any of my girls are competing in sports against boys, that is going to make me very unhappy." Be unhappy then. Get used to it. Sorry. Trans people's rights don't, like, your feelings don't trump our rights. If you feel like it's unfair, okay, well then prove it, bitch. Like, prove it. Give me the evidence. This is the argument that I got into on the line last week. Like, okay, you can feel that it's not right. You can feel that it's unfair, but unless you have the evidence, I don't want to hear it. I don't care what you feel. We have rights to participate in society. We have Title IX protections that both the courts and the executive branch administration have said that we are protected from discrimination on these grounds. Hey, you should like, comment, and subscribe. And you can hit up the Patreon or maybe buy one of these hoodies that I'm wearing because it's good merch. Do it. Do it for the cat. Do it. Do it. Yeah, I'm also getting sick of people using literal fiction books to oppress other people. Like, I don't care what your biblical beliefs are. You have the right to practice your religion on your own. That doesn't mean, like, okay, why do you think that a teacher has the right to refuse to, like, use someone's correct name and pronouns? We've been over this. What was that lady's name? I can't even remember her name because she doesn't exist to me. She's a horrible person and irrelevant. But she was like, even though it's legal for gay people to get married here, I'm going to personally deny you the ability to get a marriage license. Anybody in chat want to help me? What is her name? But like, yeah, you're violating my rights. You're imposing your religious beliefs on me. I have a right to freedom from religion. Like, I have the right to exercise my own freedoms outside the realm of your religious beliefs. I don't care what, yeah, Kim Davis, thank you. I don't care what Kim Davis's religious beliefs. If your religious beliefs prevent you from serving people because of who they are, quit your job and ideally exit society. You could stop stealing oxygen from other people too, but I'm not going to press on that point. Like, your religious beliefs are your problem. They do not give you the right to harass people. They do not give you the right to deny us things that we are owed. It is a pretty forgettable name. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, my book says I win by default. So you are violating my religious freedom by defending yourself. That's the thing. Like, I don't care about your religious beliefs. Like, your religious beliefs do not give you the right to harm other people. You don't have the right to impose your religious beliefs on other people. But the right wing in this country is dragging us closer and closer to a theocracy. They're dragging us closer and like repeatedly trying to enforce their beliefs on us. Basically, all of the justifications for limiting the right to abortion are religious and fifi arguments. There is no right. Like, you don't have rights as a person until you're born. Otherwise, you would be paying child support from the time of conception. Yeah, exactly. It's my constitutional right to have the same rights as everyone else, no matter what any of our religions are. You don't have to exercise your right to get an abortion, but we should all have the right. You don't have to exercise your right to get gay married, but we should all have the right. It seems like he's really focusing up on the sports thing, which, like, good fucking luck, because again, there are numerous courts in this country that are determining that trans girls have the right, like, to force a young girl to play on the boys team. If you remove the term trans from this, what you are trying to do is force little girls to play on the boys team. And apparently that's okay just because the little girl is trans, just because you feel like there is, like, she should be with the boys. And like, Kris Kobach continuously uses the term boys describing trans girls and women. When he was asked about this, and like, if he respected trans identity, Kobach says people have a right to change their appearance and presentation, but, quote, the bottom line is that they can't change the structure and other advantages that males gain. Anyone who observes sports and observes the competition by these biological males in female sports has seen the obvious unfairness of it. This is a fallacy. It's like the appeal to common sense fallacy. Like, oh, well, it's just common sense that these people have an advantage over other people. They just don't even feel the need to justify their position. They don't feel the need to produce any actual evidence. Oh, it's Orwellian if someone is canceled or punished for simply saying what they believe. There is such a thing as harassment. If I believe that Kris Kobach, let's see, where can we take this that will not get me TOS pretty hardcore? If I believe that Kris Kobach personally owns slaves and that he has slaves cleaning his home, and I tell everybody that, and I say, Kris Kobach is a slave owner, there's a good chance that I could be at least civilly sued for libel or slander, depending on whether it was spoken. Like, sometimes speech is a crime, dumbass. If we could strap a generator to the corpse of George Orwell, his spinning would power the world. Oh man, what have you sent me? Oh no, you're not sending this to me. This is not for me. Okay. Yeah, if a trans person wins, oh, it's an unfair advantage. Trans people loses, crickets. Except that even when trans people lose, remember, Leah Thomas, I think she got like first place in one of the races, but in two of the other races, she got like 5th place and like 8th place. Even if we lose, there's still a problem. Yeah, and in this sense, the appeal to common sense most of the time is just an appeal to my personal knee-jerk feelings about something. Sorry, conservatives, facts don't care about your feelings. Trans girls are not overwhelmingly winning when they are participating in these sports, and they shouldn't have to lose in order to justify their participation. You need to prove that there's an unfair advantage. And yeah, the study we went over recently showing that trans women have disadvantages compared to cisgender women on several different measurements. Let's see what else is in here. Commentary from Melissa Styler, who is the advocacy director at Loud Light, a Kansas-based organization focused on LGBTQ plus rights and social issues. She questioned his motives, saying, quote, "During his career, Mr. Kobach's actions and legal theories have yet to show that he has the best interest of women and our legal protections at heart. In fact, Kobach has actively sought to take away constitutional rights from Kansas women. With the experience of facing adversity as a woman, I fully encourage the AG to accept that transgender kids deserve protection from sex-based discrimination, just as I received as a girl going through public school. Protection for trans kids doesn't nullify any gains women and girls have made in our strides toward realizing equity." Yeah, like this is a wave of attorneys general in red states scrambling to challenge the ruling since the publication of these revised guidelines. With legal counsel from the Alliance Defending Freedom, which is obviously an explicitly anti-LGBTQ plus organization, Kobach, just leading the way. I've never been more embarrassed to be from this state. And also, like, I just have to not engage with this at all, because if I were to contact him, I would absolutely cuss him out, or I would leave like a very colorful message for his poor intern to have to receive. Reporters did ask Governor Kelly, she's a Democrat, our governor is a Democrat, about the lawsuit. She says, "I wish that we would focus on issues that really make a difference in Kansans' lives. I would suggest that that makes a difference in very few people's lives and not in a good way." Yeah, like how many trans athletes are in this state? How many trans athletes are even in this state that are in elementary, middle, and high school? Or I guess this is for any school that receives federal funding, so that would also include probably the colleges. Nikki asks, if people have concerns about this, could a solution be to just have a trans-exclusive sport as part of a compromise if people have a problem with advantages that trans people supposedly have? No. Under no circumstances is that an acceptable solution to this problem. And I'm not, my sincerity in my commentary and the spiciness, not directed at you, Nikki. Thank you so much for bringing this up as a suggestion, because sometimes this is what the conservatives propose. First of all, if there are only 3 trans athletes in the whole state, let's just say high school. Let's just stick with high school. If there are only like 3 trans girls in the whole state participating, how are you going to have a trans-only sport? How? And also, it's crazy how it's very obvious in other circumstances that separate but equal is not the answer. But this continues to be proposed as the solution for trans people when it comes to bathrooms, when it comes to sports. Like, no, under no is this an acceptable answer. Why is it so obvious? Like, you know that the same argument was made about black people, right? And actually, this is something that is continuing into the present day, where black athletes are, removed from the sports participation because of their elevated levels of testosterone and stuff like that. Like, the same argument was made to justify keeping black people separate. Oh, black people would sexually assault white people if they were in the same bathroom. Oh, black people would have an unfair advantage because, we bred them to be more physically capable, and therefore, like, that's a justification for keeping them separate? No, sex discrimination is illegal. Trans people are protected by sex discrimination law. There is no situation in which separating us this way is okay. Let me see if there's anything else in here. Yeah, Kansas has been trying to pass all kinds of anti-trans laws. Like, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be from here. It fills me with loathing. Like, I hate Kris Kobach. Remembering how few trans athletes this actually applies to is key to realizing how much this amounts to states practically putting children's names in their discrimination laws. Yeah, like, he hates you too. Oh, I'm sure. I'm like Idris Elba on his episode of Hot Ones. I'm like, can you fight, Chris? Do you know how to fight? There was one state where the law would only have applied to one kid. Yeah, Utah. They made an anti-trans, like, athletes bill, and it's like there was only one trans girl in the whole state who was trying to participate. And like, you haven't proven that there's an advantage in the first place. You haven't proven that it's an unfair advantage. Having a law made just for you sounds hellish. Yeah. Can't imagine what it would feel like to have your entire state government target you. And even if you could prove that there was some type of advantage, like, we're still talking about only one kid, and like, sports is inherently unfair. People have longer arms than other people. Like, people have different height and weight classes. Like, some people don't produce lactic acid like Michael Phelps. And it does not justify removing an entire class of people. The case in the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, where they recently determined that a trans girl must be allowed to play with the rest of the girls, was predicated on, and I don't think this is a good argument, but it was predicated on the idea that this girl had not had any testosterone puberty because she's been on puberty blockers since she hit Turner phase 2. Like, she has not had testosterone puberty. So if you remove all trans athletes, you're removing a lot of people who don't have the advantage that you're claiming that they have. You can't remove an entire class of people on this flimsy justification. It's just blatant discrimination. And it's illegal discrimination under Title IX. Yeah, only people with Da Vinci's ideal proportions can participate. So, yep, another great day to be from Kansas. I'm done talking about this now. I'm really annoyed. Thank you so much to all of my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Michelle Frateroli, Amanda B., Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Ella V. Nobody, Pastel Infinity, Jamie Jam, Nova, Sojo, Elizabeth Bartell, Kevin Young, Athiette, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, Mr. Atheist, and Jack.